Rocky 4, The Expendables 4, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, Death Wish 4, The Crackdown, The Matrix Resurrections. For some reason on this series, I keep coming back to the fourth entry into a movie franchise because apparently that is the point where they always turn delightfully devilish. Anyway, Happy New Year, folks. To kick off 2024, I'm working with another fourth entry, and this time, it's Robots in Disguise.
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back. And once again, we're going to be looking into the filmography of renowned cinematic genius Michael Bay. This time with the 2014 science fiction action blockbuster Transformers: Age of Extinction, which was the highest grossing film of the year, the only film to gross over $1 billion that year, and with $320 million coming in from the Chinese box office, it was temporarily the highest grossing film in China. There are currently a total of 7 films in the live-action Transformers series, with the best one being arguably Bumblebee, the first one to not be directed by Michael Bay, and the first one where the filmmakers stopped and thought, you know, our intellectual property behind this movie is a line of toys and 80s cartoons, so why don't we lean into that instead of trying to portray the geography of global conflict? And wouldn't you know it, it fucking worked out. But before we got there, we went through 5 Transformers movies. The first Transformers film has some spectacular visual effects and some great action scenes, but unfortunately, like every Michael Bay film, it also suffers from a bloated runtime and a bunch of characters that just aren't interesting whatsoever, which means the momentum runs out before the movie can get to its conclusion. The second Transformers movie has some spectacular visual effects as well, but nowhere near enough of them, very little action, and a script so depressingly poor that you can tell it was written amidst the writer's strike and couldn't elevate itself whatsoever. The third Transformers is where they started exploring better concepts and had the best action of the series, so arguably this was the highlight of the live-action movies that Michael Bay directed. Then along comes the fourth one, which was so trashed and critically lambasted despite its success, and yet I have been one of the few people I know who has consistently enjoyed it throughout the years. I wouldn't say the same thing about the fifth one. I just tried watching it before this review and I turned it off 45 minutes in. The script is incomprehensible, there's very little action, I don't care what's happening, and the constant changing aspect ratios just... what the fuck is that? Shoot the movie in one aspect ratio! Every Michael Bay directed Transformers film makes no effort to disguise the fact that it is a brain-dead blockbuster with nothing beneath the surface and state-of-the-art special effects. Transformers: Age of Extinction is no exception to that rule, but it does take a step away from the first 3 Transformers films by abandoning Sam Witwicky as a character when Shia LaBeouf opted not to return to the role. They instead created a new character known as Cade Yeager. Jason Statham was heavily rumored to be the frontrunner for the role, which would have been fucking awesome, and Dwayne Johnson was offered the part before it ended up going to Mark Wahlberg, who took it on because his kids are huge Transformers fans, and because in return for him taking on the role, they got cameos in the movie. On top of that, I theorize that since Mark Wahlberg is in the film, there's got to be a deleted scene where he claims that if he was on Cybertron when it fell, it wouldn't have gone down like it did, just like the September 11 attacks. His casting is also a little ironic because in the original 1980s animated Transformers movie, Stan Bush wrote a song called The Touch, which has become an iconic 80s song. Mark Wahlberg then went on to perform that song for the soundtrack to Boogie Nights.
You got the touch. You got the power.
I am no die-hard Transformers fan. I never played with the toys growing up, nor did I watch the animated series, but I did go to the cinemas to see the first and third entry into the series, because I'm just a sucker for a good action movie and a solid Michael Bay piece. Now, does Age of Extinction stand up as that? Well, let's find out. Transformers: Age of Extinction opens the same way that Armageddon did, by depicting the extinction level event that wipes the dinosaurs off the Earth. But rather than reusing footage as he's known to do, he actually shows something which depicts a different extinction level event. It turns out that 65 million years ago, a species of aliens called Creators covered the surface of Earth with a metallic alloy which wiped all the dinos out in the process. And this makes for a visually spectacular intro. Then we cut to the feature.
Oh, shit. Darcy, you really shouldn't have come.
That's what she said.
In the modern-day Arctic, science woman stumbles across the remnants of another time.
I think history is about to change.
Meanwhile in Texas, Mark Wahlberg plays an inventor named Cade Yeager who has come to work on a discovery at an old movie theater.
The movies nowadays, that's the trouble. Sequels and remakes, bunch of crap.
I don't understand. Is this you being meta?
You know, folks used to come from miles around to see the dancing girls with the big cha-chas.
Swear to God, I am one diaper change away from poisoning his oatmeal.
That's kind of an ironic statement. Now, my admittedly limited understanding of religion includes the notion that God created everything in his perfect image, particularly humans, and there's no mention of him creating the Cybertronian characters. So, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the existence of sentient trucks disprove the existence of Sky Daddy?
I don't know, but it's a bloody good question.
Hans Moleman Productions presents Man Getting Hit by Football.
Hey, heads! In the face! In the face! Go long.
Yeah, keep your balls to yourself. Cade's daughter predictably pulls up in jean shorts, portrayed by Nicola Peltz, whose other big movie role is portraying Katara in the live-action Last Airbender movie.
Hoo-wee! Whoa! Oh! You know, I never walk out of a movie, but yeah.
Yeah, the two biggest movies of her career just got massacred by critics. And Cade brings home an old truck that he just found chilling inside the movie theater.
You know what the engine on this runs for? I can break it down, strip it for parts. Sweetheart, your shorts are shrinking by the second, okay?
So as long as your script in the movie speaks out against women wearing short shorts, that makes it okay to point the camera directly at them from behind.
I think she looks hot.
What did you say?
Like a hot teenager.
Oh, it's the teenager thing that makes it better. Thank you.
Speaking for TJ Miller, it is safe to say that line did not age well.
Dad, please, you can't keep spending money on junk just so you can turn it into different junk.
Yeah, like the alleged guard dog.
You're gonna get him upset.
Robo Puppy commencing 2-hour yipping session.
Come on. Come on. Bring Daddy the alcohol. Come on.
Cade's ambitions as an inventor are distracting him from the impending foreclosure of his home and throwing the financial well-being of his family into jeopardy. After we skim through the predictable banter, the film cuts right to the action at the 15-minute mark. As a result of the Battle of Chicago from the events of Dark of the Moon, the US government has cut ties with all Autobots and declared all Transformers enemies of the state, leading to humans hunting them down.
I'm an Autobot!
Why are you running?
Because you're all shooting at him, genius?
I lost a sister in Chicago. You get no sympathy from me.
Oh, you lost a sister, so you still got others? Pfft, yeah, no big loss, asshole. The humans are hunting the Autobots with the assistance of a Cybertronian assassin named Lockdown. And if you spent either 2020 or 2021 in Melbourne, Victoria, then the name Lockdown should send a big shudder down your spine. The man in charge of the operation is played by Frasier star Kelsey Grammer.
He runs the projects where I don't ask for specifics. That's why they're called Black Ops.
I don't know, mate, they sound like your kind of ops. Marky Mark gets served with an eviction notice, but also makes a discovery about his truck.
Calling all Autobots.
I think we just found a Transformer.
That's not a truck, okay? You're right. It's an alien killing machine.
Well, he is an alien, he is capable of killing, and he is a machine.
There's a number that you call. You're supposed to call.
Ghostbusters?
The government. It's the American thing to do.
Help! TJ Miller is making bomb threats and the truck just stopped him.
Use my money to buy the truck, right? So technically, that's my truck.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
You also signed a contract regarding all research lab IP. Any idea of yours is mine. Any thought you have, I own it. So basically, I own you.
I don't think you can own someone. That was like a while ago, even in Texas.
Oh, you mean like slavery? Rise from your grave.
Optimus comes back to life in an injured condition. Whilst Cade noses him back to health, the evil black government figures show up to raid the property.
Search the property!
What do you mean search the property? You don't have a warrant.
My face is my warrant. What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Okay, yes, I found a truck, all right? I towed it back for the parts. I left it here last night. This morning, it's gone. When, where, I don't know. I swear to God, that's as much as I know about him.
Him. He said him.
Man, people in Texas really do hate pronouns. As the cops do what they do best and abuse the shit out of non-violent civilians, Optimus rises from his hideaway beneath the floorboards and begins to escape, causing the government to destroy the Yeager homestead, which I guess probably renders the notice of eviction obsolete. Whilst under attack, our heroes get rescued by a mysterious stranger doing donuts. This turns into an extended chase scene with all the awesome camera angles and car crashes Michael Bay fans have come to expect.
They said they were gonna bring a check. I didn't know they were gonna send a death squad.
As we later learn from the real world, nothing good happens when TJ Miller calls emergency services. The extended chase ends with our heroes taking a Fast and Furious style leap of faith and TJ Miller meeting his grisly end at the hands of a Decepticon. And I'm not gonna lie, this moment did bum me out. Say what you want about TJ Miller as a human being, but when it comes to the man playing the comic relief in movies and TV shows, I think he does a very good job of it. And I think his comedic touch is very much needed to offset the serious nature of this movie. I also think that killing him off early on does actually give the film a dramatic impact.
How old are you? 20. She's a 17-year-old girl. We're protected by the Romeo and Juliet laws.
We dated for a little while. I was a sophomore and he was a senior. It's fine.
No, it's not fine. We've got a pre-existing juvenile foundational relationship. Statute 2705-3. What? Texas statute? That a real law? Yep.
This dude just carries a license to statutory rape on him at all times. And a lot of people have been quick to point out how problematic this film is for bringing widespread attention to this clause.
Romeo and Juliet, huh? You know how those two ended up?
Love.
Dead.
They ended up causing extensive suffering to every high school student for the next 450 years.
I am your father, okay? And I have been busting my ass to take care of you.
Is that what you were doing when you brought home the truck? All you had to do was report it, and now Lucas is dead.
Lucas is dead because he reported it, Katara.
Putang ina! Si Optimum Prime! Fucking inang yan, Optimum Prime!
Optimus regroups with the other Autobots, including a heavyset Scottish stereotype voiced by John Goodman and a caricature of a samurai who nonetheless speaks English.
Humans have asked us to play by their rules. Well, the rules have just changed.
When your race has changed, life can be real strange when you're trying to figure out all the rules.
Loyalty's about to flower in the winds of fear and temptation.
What the hell are you saying?
It's a haiku.
Cut the crap before I drop a grenade down your throat.
Oh, careful, you may have to do it twice before he gets the point. One of this film's big baddies is a technological corporation that shares the name with this YouTuber.
Hey babe, you want some chicken?
Nope. Good morning, Mr. Joyce.
What was that sound?
And Stanley Tucci's villain is evidently an evil Steve Jobs. But then again, Steve Jobs was never really a good guy anyway. His organization is researching the capabilities of the metal that makes up the Autobots, known as Transformium. And he keeps trying to build his own Optimus, but it keeps on coming out looking like Megatron.
Why can't we make what we want to make the way we want to make it?
Because the studios would rather keep giving money to Transformers movies. Like I said, there is 7 so far and more on the way.
Why?
Why? 'Cause fuck them, that's why.
By making some alterations to a KSI drone, Kate is able to create fake IDs that successfully grant him and Romeo access to KSI. And I know this is a brainless blockbuster, but realistically, in a world where the American government is already perpetually spying on everyone and KSI has the most advanced technology known to existence, you're telling me that they don't have facial recognition software, nor do any of their staff or security know who to be on the lookout for? Jesus Christ, for the most advanced technological corporation in the world, they sure are a bunch of fucking idiots.
Introducing Stinger.
We call that the Stinger. They don't let you use that no more.
Inspired by Bumblebee, but better in every way.
Bumblebee gets insecure and starts to make a scene.
Transformium 做生产，你知道吗？很晚了，是你晚了，是你。
And nobody is the slightest bit suspicious about these guys, they literally just walk out. KSI genuinely has worse security than a pre-2001 American airport.
Earthquake.
Yeah, truck going by.
I need more Transformium, and I need it now. You need to deliver the seed.
Is that a euphemism for something?
And you're working with Transformium?
Yeah, that's what I do. I am.
I'm out there digging for it. There's just not much left to find.
Better get to digging.
Eventually, they gain wind of the fact that something suspicious is afoot and alert security. It wasn't when Bumblebee literally revealed his true form and then knocked another Transformer over, which someone should have seen on camera. No, they decided to wait until much later.
Parkour!
You're trying to protect your family. That's admirable.
I'm trying to defend the nation.
You don't seem to be trying very hard.
There is a version of this conversation where you get to go back to your barn.
Oh yeah, the barn that you blew to pieces? Yeah, I'm sure they can just go build a log cabin out of the charred remains. The Transformers bust in to break Cade out, and KSI responds by unleashing their customized Decepticons, leading to more robots battling, car chases, and explosions. So basically everything you want as the audience of a Michael Bay film.
An 18-wheeler spins out of control, and it's all like, brush! In this huge tanker full of diamonds, craw, craw! Those aren't ideas, those are special effects! I don't understand the difference.
The Autobots find new challenges battling KSI's team due to their ability to transform to an atomic level, and then in comes a giant spaceship at the helm of Lockdown.
Where do you think you came from? You think you were born?
That doesn't seem possible.
You were built, and your creators want you back.
Good thing I had this net installed for catching giraffes.
Don't leave me!
They take Optimus and Katara up onto a giant spaceship and gift the humans an elusive device known only as the Seed.
We're behind enemy lines now. Lockdown ship has booby traps. Eyes open.
Beware of his bone grinders, brain blinders, flesh peelers, chromosomal inverters, catatonic sludge, black hole trapdoors, and of course radiation.
I know some of these words.
Let's try to use violence as a last resort.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
Hey, I'm not going anywhere without Tessa.
I'm unclear. What's in it for me?
What's in it for you?
What's in it for you is I don't kill you. We're getting the boss back.
I never got what the character Hound had to gain by smoking a Transformium cigar. Maybe he just perpetually loves it when a plan comes together.
We got like 6 minutes.
We'll find her. 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, don't get
Cade and Romeo ultimately lean into the Second Amendment. They lock and load and then shoot up the place. Whilst escaping from the ship with Katara, they find themselves attacked by saber-toothed tigers. I know I can't be the first one to come up with that term, but I'm still proud of myself.
I started blasting. Bang! Bang! No, I don't see so good, so I missed. Then they ran away. I ran after them. Okay. Bang! Try to shoot them in the back.
The humans try to get to safety walking across wires, and just as they begin to snap, Bumblebee comes to the rescue, stopping them falling by catching them in his metal grip and bashing them into a building where they miraculously avoid a legion of shattered glass that falls around them and never makes contact with them.
The science works out.
Then the film gets innovative by throwing an aerial chase in there. This extensive battle manages to fulfill the fantasies of childish minds everywhere, including a bit that predates whatever the fuck pseudo white trash singer Kid Rock was doing last year. And Cade is sure to drink a fraction of a Bud Light in front of a Goodyear tires truck, which I'm pretty sure paid for the entire scene. And the Autobots escape by hijacking a mini-ship.
I did not have control over my prototype, and I want to know why!
Because you're a dumb cunt who couldn't even control the security at your own facility.
Within that man-made prototype I fought, I sensed the presence of Megatron.
An extensive sequence of exposition outlines that Megatron's mind infected KSI's Decepticons when they tried to harness his remains, and that the humans are now in possession of the aforementioned seed, which has the power to change widespread organic matter into Transformium, just like it did 65 million years ago.
And that's what Galvatron wants to happen again. He wants to detonate that seed in the biggest city and kill millions.
The blast wave will incinerate that city into molten metal. He'll have enough to build a massive army.
Then we cut to China to ensure the film's box office potential.
How fast can that thing get us halfway around the world?
Very. It's a spaceship.
Cade contacts Steve Jobs to warn him of Galvatron's plans, planting a seed of doubt in his mind.
Pun intended.
Galvatron summons his Robo Squad, and Jobs goes on the run with the help of his assistants as the film begins to cross the 2-hour mark.
I know how to lose them in Hong Kong. I know a military garrison there that will help us.
A woman driving. That's adorable.
And there are still 45 minutes left in the movie at this point, so any semblance of the story begins to show its cracks, and the momentum really does start to deplete itself, no matter how much the visual effects artists try. It becomes hard to still care about anything in the script at this point, assuming you cared in the first place. But look, now we have a martial arts fight scene. Yay, let's try a different kind of action to distract the audience. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they put a fight scene in here, but after 2 hours, it's like, who gives a shit anymore?
Hey, I forgot
God, Asians can do that.
The film is also sure to show a clip of Steve Jobs drinking the same Chinese milk beverage from Transformers 3.
Video.
Another battle begins to break out in the city of Detroit, disguised to look like China, and the Autobot ship gets shot down whilst Cade gets chased by Human Villain 3.
I'm coming for you!
That's quite gay.
I'm gonna put my thumb through your eye, you little bitch!
The fight culminates with Marky Mark executing the man with skills he learned during his time playing college football, or something like that. Optimus pulls a sword from the ship and summons the Dinobots, who just so happen to be in prison on the ship that crashed. After encouraging them to join forces against the KSI army, we finally get our first look at the Dinobots in full form. It just took 2 hours and 13 minutes to get there. Whilst Hound makes his last stand, the Dinobots crash through as the franchise joins forces with Jurassic Park, which is something I've been saying that Fast and Furious should have done a long time ago.
No. Impossible.
Well, first of all, through God, all things are possible, so jot that down.
Meanwhile, Lockdown returns and begins to suck up Chinese architecture into the ship's butthole, and this goes on for a while. Seriously, Galvatron's ship does more sucking than Nancy Reagan on a studio backlot.
Zinga!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Optimus Prime blasts a missile into the anus, disabling the suction and probably giving it some major cyber hemorrhoids. And in the middle of battling Lockdown, Fraser pulls a gun on Cade.
There are no good aliens or bad aliens, Jaeger. It's just us and them.
He starts monologuing.
He starts monologuing. He starts like this prepared speech about how
He's dead.
And with the joint forces of Cade, Bumblebee, Romeo, and Katara, Optimus Prime is finally able to make like the vaccinations and put an end to Lockdown. Optimus concludes the movie by taking the seat and flying off into space in a manner that seems heavily reminiscent of the Superman movies. The end. Is Transformers Age of Extinction a good movie?
Yes, but at what cost, Mr. Garrison?
Transformers Age of Extinction is quintessential Michael Bay through and through. Lazy dialogue, thin characters, state-of-the-art visual effects, a real sweeping spectacle, a phenomenally bloated runtime, a total of 55 brands of product placement, and a total of 563 explosions. And I'm guessing the former paid for the latter in this case. No Transformers movie needs to be nearly 3 hours long, and that's one of the major drawbacks because the type of audience going into this movie with enthusiasm is less likely to have the attention span that can be held over a 3-hour period. And even if it can, this movie doesn't make a solid argument why this should be the case. I saw this movie for the thinly written, brainless blockbuster that it was, and I enjoyed it for that, but even then, after 2 hours were done, that was when I was starting to lose any interest I had in the story, which despite its thin nature and reliance on convention, I did actually find myself enjoying. And the Dinobots hadn't even appeared in the film at that point. Transformers Age of Extinction does make a valiant attempt to keep audiences on their toes by constantly adding in different types of action scenes which divert from the previous one in new innovative ways. But nonetheless, there is only so long you can ride on a roller coaster before all the different twists and turns start to wear off and you're just stuck there waiting for it to finish. Frankly, I would say that Age of Extinction is the kind of movie that you are better suited to watch over 2 sessions. Watch halfway through, then take a break, maybe an hour break, or maybe come back to it the next day and then finish it off. Because not too long ago, I had the same experience watching Bad Boys 2 when I did exactly that. Every time I watch that movie, I can barely ever remember a scene from it, and every action scene, shootout, and chase just all begins to merge into one blank action scene that I can hardly remember. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy the movie, but over its bloated runtime, I just stopped caring at a certain point. And I think with Age of Extinction, it's a good idea to take a pause and come back to it if you're gonna finish it. I would argue that the two films differ because all the shootouts and car chases in Transformers Age of Extinction shows the action making an effort to try to stay innovative. As much of a brainless spectacle as it is, you don't have to see the same things happen again and again. We get different types of Transformers, different situations, different environments, and different kinds of action. And as usual with Michael Bay movies, the action is consistently top-notch. Huge production values, large-scale battles, car chases and rock'em sock'em robot action, incredible visual effects, solid editing, and an intense musical score, all making this feel like the explosive blockbuster that it has no shame in being. And yet, whilst Michael Bay is still yet to learn that you can make a movie that doesn't run exceeding 2 hours, he does display that he's learned from some of the mistakes of his previous Transformers movies, namely the fact that the pacing in Age of Extinction is the best of any of the films in the series. The action kicks off straight away, and then it makes an effort to stay there on a consistent basis throughout, even if the dialogue scenes in between do drag it down a little bit. As far as the quantity of action goes, Transformers Age of Extinction has the most of any Transformers movie, and if that means it has to run for close to 3 hours to show it all off, then that's a price I'm willing to pay. We don't have to wait around for half the movie for the scope of the film's action ambitions to be unleashed. We get right to it and keep on that level the entire time, even if the momentum naturally fades with the extended runtime. When it comes to script, there isn't much to write home about. The dialogue is a mix of brainless banter and pretty obvious exposition. The characters are all fairly generic archetypes, and the plot is hardly more than a front for Michael Bay to just keep blowing shit up. But all that being said, I think the script of Age of Extinction improves upon the first 3 Transformers films massively by moving completely away from Sam Witwicky as a character. Without him around, the protagonist is not an annoying, whiny teenage boy / young adult who is dragging us through a series of supposedly comical situations. Instead, we have Mark Wahlberg playing Mark Wahlberg, and eventually he goes on to actually start portraying an action hero in the movie, which is what it needs. We want a brave guy with a gun leading the fight alongside the robots, not some guy complaining about the fact that he wants to bang Megan Fox and his car isn't running. Also, the idea of humans harvesting Autobot technology to engineer their own machines, as well as the conflict between humans and Autobots, does in fact come with some entertaining ideas. They aren't explored with any substance, mind you, but they do breathe a modicum of fresh air into the franchise, which does help to justify the series' continued existence, admittedly to a very limited degree. That being said, if you went into Transformers Age of Extinction because you saw the trailers and were expecting there to be an exploration of the Dinobots, then you are going to be sorely disappointed, because they amount to nothing more than a barely glorified cameo in the last scene. They only appear across the last 20 minutes, largely as a Deus Ex Machina plot device to come in and defeat the enemies. For me, this wasn't the most bothersome thing, because I didn't base my expectations on the trailer, nor was I ever the biggest fan of the Transformers franchise growing up. But the Dinobots were hugely popular among fans, so for anyone expecting to see the Jurassic Beast having any impact on the narrative of this nearly 3-hour movie, the ultimate result amounts to little more than a cameo, and a non-speaking one too. Yeah, originally these characters actually had voices in the animated Transformers series.
Why you think Grimlock's stupid? Me not stupid. Grimlock's smartest Dinobot of all.
This movie definitely succeeded off the back of some misleading marketing, which is a very dog move, but speaking personally, this doesn't affect my perception of it. I can just see how it would bother a lot of fans, and if you're a fan who is pissed off by this, then fair enough. But what shouldn't bother anyone around this time is the cast. Mark Wahlberg plays Cade Yeager as largely another Mark Wahlberg archetype, and I have zero complaints about this. The man is naturally charismatic, charming, likable, and able to approach situations with either drama or a sense of humor, depending on what it calls for. When the film asks him to step up and be an action hero, that's when he really shines. And he keeps quipping the cheesy dialogue with sincere energy no matter how unremarkable his lines may be. He's the hero this franchise needs, and one audiences deserve after sitting through 3 movies where Sam Witwicky's childish mannerisms are front and center. And Stanley Tucci also shines in this film. He gives arguably the best performance there is, because he perfectly nails the mad energy of Joshua Joyce, which is a personality type that audiences should be all too familiar with, as we've had numerous iterations of them pop up in the years following this movie's release. You know, the innovative billionaire who is also an egotistical maniac that's steadily destroying the world. Yeah. Tucci is a commanding presence, hamming up the drama to match the film's over-the-top energy, but still making it believable and never dipping into campy territory. Stanley Tucci perfectly encapsulates the mad genius of his role and keeps a tenacious grip on every word and every mannerism that the role demands. And Kelsey Grammer proves a perfectly cast villain. It's really refreshing to see the legendary sitcom actor get the chance to step into the blockbuster sphere, and Grammer proves himself up to the challenge with a reserved performance that carries a lot of weight in very few tones of voice, with more sadistic traits left to the implications and the subtext of the role. He is calm, collected, and cruel, and whilst he doesn't really get many chances to branch into a range of emotion, he captures the precise mood and energy that every scene demands and comes across as a real, genuine bad guy in the process. And despite being granted the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Supporting Actor in this movie, as well as 3 others from the same year, Grammer's performance has been consistently praised as one of the highlights of the movie by anyone who actually watched it. So let me take the chance to remind you now that, like the Oscars, the Razzies are full of crap. Kelsey Grammer, Mark Wahlberg, and Stanley Tucci are all in very fine form with this film. Their talents are worthy of the audience's attention when the film isn't spectacle-focused. We just need Tyrese Gibson to round things out. He is the one absent cast member from the first 3 movies that I really did miss this time. The rest of the cast is largely rounded out by the same Michael Bay stereotypes we saw in Armageddon. Nicola Peltz plays the romantic interest and the protagonist's daughter, Jack Rayner plays the young charming boyfriend at odds with her father, and TJ Miller plays the comic relief. None of them have much to work with, but they all do a solid job, as does the entire voice cast. As a final note, I want to make a point of saying that Transformers Age of Extinction is a far better blockbuster than a large number of the films that Hollywood has been throwing $200 million into for the past few years. Seriously, we have been inundated with an excess of superhero movies. The last two superhero movies I actually saw at cinemas were Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man No Way Home, both of which I loved. And yet, the only superhero film from the past few years that I actively find myself rewatching is The Suicide Squad. I fucking love that movie because that was a visual splendor and such a good time. And you know what? So was this movie. I really enjoyed this one too. But Hollywood just doesn't seem to have the same sense of fun that it did once upon a time. I recently went to see The Expendables 4 at cinemas, knowing full well that it was going to let me down, which ultimately it did. And that was a far cry from when 10 years prior I went to see The Expendables 3 at cinemas, so pumped up. I have gotten cynical with time and just do not get excited about what Hollywood's putting out anymore. But when I watched this one, it honestly reminded me of a time long ago when Hollywood made movies that were worth getting excited about. Movies that weren't trying to tie into an extended cinematic universe where you had to watch 3 other TV shows to get it, and everything else being just another fucking reboot of a pre-existing franchise that no one wanted to see brought back again. I know that this is the 4th entry into a series based on a line of toys, but it's also pretty self-aware in its ridiculousness, and it just tries to lean into being a fun time instead of plugging itself with a ridiculous number of Easter eggs. This is a movie that never exceeds its own grasp because it aims to be a big explosive blockbuster and succeeds at doing exactly that. It suffers in a lot of areas, it goes for way too goddamn long, and it is not intelligent on any kind of particular level, but it is fun, it is beautiful to look at, and it reminds me of a time when I did get excited to go to the movies, which is a time that I'm really missing as a cynical 28-year-old. Transformers Age of Extinction gets 6 Dinobots out of 10. It is a Michael Bay film for better and for worse. Tedious in length, thinly scripted, and short on brains, but visually stunning, well-paced, solidly cast, and packed with so many thoroughly exciting action scenes, which is exactly what I came here to see. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Happy New Year, and peace.
Fucking inang yan, Optimum Pride.